Chances are, if you've been on the internet within the past few months, you've heard of lookalike competitions. And if you don't know what those are, it's basically where a bunch of people go into a public space and try to find who looks the most like a celebrity. Essentially, the first person who started off was one of my favorite creators named Anthpo, and he started the Cheeseball Man thing, which I made a video about a while ago, but he also made the Timothy Chalamet lookalike competition, which a lot of people still don't know. Anyway, this thing became a massive trend, and it was super freaking fun to just see everyone going into like parks and just dressing up like, Jeremy Allen White. And actually, that's the only other one I remember. There was a lot of them. I found most of them were happening in America, and there wasn't really much happening in my beautiful country of Canada. So I decided to make a Drake lookalike competition. I figured it made the most sense because he's like the most memeable person, and he's like also kind of world renowned like everywhere, even just beyond music. And everyone kind of knows he's from Toronto. And I coincidentally live very close to Toronto. So I figured it made sense to just hold a lookalike competition in one of the major parks. Now, I was pretty late on doing this. I'm late on making this video as well. I was supposed to do this in like December after I actually held the lookalike competition, but life gets in the way. And by life, I mean crippling work and school and all that jazz. I figured the process at making a lookalike competition was pretty simple. You get a bunch of posters, you put them up around the city, and you hope to God that people actually show up and you don't publicly embarrass yourself. Hint, hint, this is a big foreshadowing for what happens next because that kind of happened to me. Anyway, I decided I'd make a simple poster on Canva. I made something really stupid and simple and goofy looking. I also put no Kendricks allowed because I thought that'd be funny because of the whole beef and yeah, I don't know. And sure enough, the poster looked kind of like all the other ones. But the one mistake I didn't make was actually putting these up in public. I was kind of too embarrassed to just go around Toronto with like 200 posters, just plastering them on random street signs without someone asking me what the fuck I was doing. So I didn't do that. I relied entirely on social media and an account with a whopping 1 follower. Needless to say, it didn't really work. But it got like a couple hundred views, got a couple thousand views. It was kind of doing its thing. I figured that the best way to do it was to just DM like a bunch of different people. And sure enough, that kind of worked. There was like a UFT confession site, I think, that reposted it. And it got like 500 likes or something. I put it on Reddit. I put it on Instagram. I went on like every single social media app I went everywhere, man. Like I can't even tell you how many times I tried to spam this. I was trying to be annoying with it because I wanted to see how far it would go. And sure enough, it didn't really get that far, and I was starting to call it quits until one account called Toronto Only on Instagram actually reposted it. I DM'd them my idea, and they were super stoked about it. They thought it was really funny, and they ended up reposting it. But what I didn't know is that there was another Drake lookalike competition happening the day before. Now, the other one was actually being run by a small business called Casual's Cakery, and they were super cool about it. We ended up DMing each other and congratulating each other on the whole thing. But what made theirs better was that they had an actual venue. They had actual prizes like backwoods and Henny and $10,000 from Drake himself because he found out about it and blew it up like crazy. Now, my event, on the other hand, had no prize unless you want to count the $5 of Canadian Tire money, which if you're Canadian, is absolutely freaking worthless. I was kind of doing it more for the bit and not for like an actual serious competition, but their event actually ended up doing like super well. I was really happy that someone made something like really fun and it actually ended up working out. They are a small business, and I think all small businesses should thrive, even if it is from like some silly social media trend. But the one thing that got me the most was that anthpo, the guy who created this whole trend, was actually going to the Drake lookalike competition. And not mine, I mean the one that happened before mine. And so I DM'd him in a last-ditch attempt to get people, because I only had like 3 RSVPs, of which I don't think either of them came. And he ended up going to the good one, the one that happened the day before. Honestly, the content looked super cool. I liked seeing all the reels. And he actually brought a Drake of his own, which I thought was super funny. He unfortunately wasn't able to show up to mine because he had a flight at 7 a.m. the next morning. So at this point, I'm going into my event with $5 of completely worthless currency, 2 RSVPs, which I don't even think are going to show up, and probably a lot of public embarrassment or loneliness. Once I showed up, there wasn't really much going on. There was actually posters for a Shawn Mendes lookalike competition, I think, like a few hours before. And so I just walked over to the other side of the park that I was holding it at. And sure enough, that didn't happen either. So I felt a little bit better about myself. All right, update. There is nobody here for lookalike competition. But guess what happened like an hour before? I'm going to go check this out and see if it's still here. I also may have just missed the competition to begin with. Okay, so here's the baseball diamonds. There's no competition. I probably missed it. I'm gonna go back to the circle and hope people show up. At the time that I set my competition to begin, I saw nobody there. I was just standing right in the middle of the park, and it was just another day in Toronto, man. Like nothing was going on. I think I overheard two people who were like talking about it, and they just kind of walked by, and they're just like, "Oh, I guess no one's here," and then they left. So to the two people who actually showed up, I think. My bad. The lesson to be learned is that maybe get a group of people to do this with you if you choose to do any sort of silly social media event trend thing in public with people. My friend actually did end up coming. One of my closest friends was there to just kind of cheer me on, and we kind of just went around Toronto and did whatever. So it was still not a bust. It was still a fun day. I was really happy to just get out and kind of make a bit for this whole trend, and I'm making a video now, like almost half a year later, because I'm very, very delayed and procrastinating and just late on a lot of things, because life happens. There's our one contestant at the Drake lookalike competition.
Are you Aubrey Graham?
This is all we got. Anyway, I thought the trend was super fun. I wasn't going to recreate it. I thought of maybe doing one for like The Weeknd or like Scott Pilgrim or some other Toronto-based celebrity, but I figured the trend's kind of dead, and I didn't even care to promote the first one that I did very well. So, yeah, this whole thing is kind of over. But I mean, I still hope people do fun things like this in public. I think the events that anthpo is doing are super fun. There's all these like silly events like bringing your stuffed animal and like public singing competitions and like all this funny stuff. I hope to do something like that in Toronto at some point. Do things, but maybe not alone. Try to drag some friends into it. And by drag, I mean force them so you're not publicly embarrassing yourself in the middle of a park. Even though there wasn't really anything. I didn't have any signs. I didn't have any like other stuff. I was kind of just sitting there on a bench. And yeah, that's it. Bye. Last minute note. The other people did not steal my idea. I just want to make that very clear. I think when I told my friends that I pulled off this thing and there was another business doing the same thing, we promoted this at the exact same time. Like, it was just kind of a fluke. I think, if anything, they may have promoted it a day before. We just happened to get our shout out on the same day, on the same post, by the same account. So I just want to say that, like, no one stole anybody's idea. Me and the small business that did it were very cool with everything, and I think the whole event went super well. So, that's it. Second last minute note. I'm doing this also because anthpo kind of asked me how things went, and I was really happy that he DM'd me after my event. It kind of blew up in my face. So I'm kind of just doing this video because I told him I would. And yeah, that's actually it. Okay, bye.